Is Burkina Faso about to shake the world order? Burkina Faso is joining BRICS to move away from the US dollar and euro by joining BRICS. But critics are saying de-dollarization is still far off. Is that true? Can nations representing nearly half of the world's population who seek to be part of BRICS really not dethrone the dollar? Let's find out. Let's get one thing straight. The current global financial order, led by the dollar and euro, is not built on some divine economic principle. It's a political construct designed to perpetuate Western hegemony. Ever wonder why the dollar is still the world's reserve currency despite the US accumulating trillions in debt? It's not because the US economy is so strong. It's because of an orchestrated system designed to keep the dollar afloat, regardless of its actual economic foundation. This monopoly keeps developing nations, particularly in Africa, shackled to policies that don't favor them. Take a look at how this system operates. The dollar's dominance means that most international transactions are conducted in US dollars, and African nations must hold reserves of these currencies just to participate in global trade. In doing so, they are vulnerable to the whims of US monetary policy. When the Federal Reserve hikes interest rates, for example, African economies suffer from capital flight, currency devaluation, and inflation, all for decisions made in Washington that have nothing to do with Africa's economic reality. It gets worse. The euro follows a similar path. As the currency of former colonial powers, the euro still holds an outsized influence over African markets, particularly in former French colonies. The CFA franc, still pegged to the euro, leaves many African nations essentially reliant on European economic decisions. Burkina Faso, as part of this system, has no real control over its monetary policy. And why? So that the elites in Paris and Frankfurt can keep their economies stable at the expense of African growth. So, for Burkina Faso, aligning with BRICS isn't just an economic decision, it's a political one, a rebellion against this monetary dictatorship. The BRICS nations are working to develop a new global currency framework that will reduce dependency on the dollar and euro, giving nations like Burkina Faso a real shot at economic sovereignty. And let's be honest, anyone who claims that sticking with the current system is in Africa's best interest is either naive, profiting from the exploitation, or deliberately looking the other way. But can BRICS stand against the dollar and euro? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. You'll hear the detractors say that BRICS, being made up of developing nations, lacks the unity or strength to counter the dollar or euro. But that's a lazy argument, and let's expose it for what it is, a straw man. Critics love to create an exaggerated version of BRICS, claiming it's doomed to fail because the member states are too diverse, too politically fragmented, or lack the economic might to stand up to Western currencies. This critique misses the point entirely. BRICS nations are not some small, inconsequential players. Together, they represent a significant portion of the world's population, trade, and economic activity. China alone is an economic giant, and India isn't far behind. Dismissing the BRICS coalition as ineffective because it's made up of emerging economies is not only disingenuous, but also a tactic used to undermine its growing influence. Critics also like to claim that these nations don't have the cohesion necessary to present a united front. But isn't that the exact argument used against every regional coalition or international organization when they first form? The European Union faced similar criticisms in its early days, and look at it now. It plays a central role in global economics. BRICS is following a similar trajectory, and it would be foolish to assume that this coalition won't grow stronger with time and shared economic interests. Furthermore, claiming that BRICS can't challenge the dollar ignores the fact that BRICS nations are already setting up alternative trade systems that bypass the dollar. From Russia and China conducting bilateral trade in their local currencies to Brazil and India discussing currency swaps, the groundwork is being laid for a new financial order. BRICS is not about immediately toppling the dollar, but about creating parallel systems that weaken its stranglehold over the global economy. So, How would it impact the dollar when nations like Burkina Faso stand against it and join BRICS? Some of the world's leading economists, not just within BRICS nations but globally, have been sounding the alarm on the instability of Western currencies. Nobel laureates and financial experts have raised concerns about the long-term viability of the dollar as the world's reserve currency. Are we to believe that all these experts are simply misguided, while the Western financial elite, who caused the 2008 crisis, are the real financial sages? Let's not forget that the US dollar, while still dominant, is losing credibility. International Monetary Fund (IMF) reports have indicated a gradual decline in the dollar's share of global reserves. Central banks in emerging economies are increasingly diversifying their reserves away from the dollar, and with good reason. The US mounting national debt and persistent trade deficits make holding onto dollars a risky bet. The dollar's stability is an illusion propped up by political clout rather than actual economic strength. Meanwhile, China's renminbi has already been added to the IMF's special drawing rights SDR basket, signaling its growing importance in global finance. With China's Belt and Road Initiative (BRI) pumping billions of dollars into infrastructure projects across Africa, Asia, and Europe, many nations are looking to diversify their financial systems to reduce reliance on Western currencies. Burkina Faso, by joining BRICS, can tap into these growing financial alternatives, insulating itself from the volatility of the dollar and euro. Burkina Faso's alignment with BRICS is a forward-thinking strategy, not a reckless gamble. It's about positioning itself for the future, where emerging market economies like China, India, and Brazil will play a dominant role in global trade. In this shifting landscape, it would be foolish for Burkina Faso to cling to the status quo of dollar dependency. Here is an important question. Why is the West so bothered by BRICS? Why do we constantly hear criticism about how BRICS won't work or how it poses a threat to global stability? Let's divert the conversation to what's going on. The criticism of Burkina Faso's potential BRICS membership is not about the efficacy of BRICS, but about protecting Western economic interests. If BRICS were as weak and ineffective as Western pundits claim, they wouldn't be so concerned, would they? The truth is that the US and Europe benefit massively from the current system. The dollar and euro allow them to exert enormous influence over global markets, manipulate trade agreements, and impose sanctions on nations that don't align with their foreign policies. This financial dominance is the backbone of Western geopolitical power. When a country like Burkina Faso looks to break free from this control, it threatens the very foundation of Western hegemony. Let's be real. The criticism of BRICS and Burkina Faso's involvement isn't about helping African nations develop. It's about maintaining control. Western powers know that if BRICS continues to grow, their ability to dictate terms to the rest of the world will diminish. That's why the mere mention of Burkina Faso joining BRICS elicits such a hostile reaction from the West. It's not about BRICS failing, it's about the West losing. In the end, it's also important to expose the blatant hypocrisy here. The West loves to preach about free markets and global cooperation when it suits them. Yet, when countries like Burkina Faso look to diversify their economic partnerships and reduce their dependence on the dollar and euro, it's suddenly labeled as a risky or misguided move. Where's that same energy when the West meddles in African economies with predatory loans and exploitative trade deals? Was it a risky move when Western nations imposed crippling trade barriers and currency manipulation tactics on African economies in the past? Or is it only risky when African nations decide to take back some control over their financial futures? Let's call it what it is: economic imperialism dressed up in the language of concern. The hypocrisy becomes even more glaring when you consider that the US and Europe have a long history of economic interventions that serve their interests, not those of Africa. Whether it's IMF-imposed austerity or the exploitative practices of multinational corporations, African economies have suffered under the weight of Western financial dominance. So why should Burkina Faso remain tied to these systems when viable alternatives are emerging in the form of BRICS? So, Burkina Faso's interest in joining BRICS is not a rejection of Western values, it's a rejection of Western control. It's about creating a more balanced and fair global economy, one where African nations have the freedom to choose their path without being dictated to by the financial overlords in Washington and Brussels. If you're against Burkina Faso joining BRICS, ask yourself, are you concerned about their well-being, or are you just afraid of what it means for the West's grip on global power? The truth is that joining BRICS gives Burkina Faso access to new markets, financial systems, and political alliances that foster real growth and independence. Those opposing this move are the same people who profit from keeping Burkina Faso and other African nations tethered to the Western economic machine. It's not about economics, it's about power, and Burkina Faso's decision to join BRICS is a bold step toward reclaiming that power. Do you think more nations should stand with Burkina Faso? How long will the West keep trying to manipulate everyone? Let us know in the comments section. Can West stop its decline? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, the economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.
Tell us what you think in the comment section. Like and share the video, and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our African videos. It's the best way to support us.